All right, welcome. This is the Body Wish. My name is Chris. It's an honor to be here. Hope you're doing well wherever you are. I help people achieve and maintain optimal well being, and I only use clinically proven methods to help you get there. I always point this out because in the health and wellness community, there are a lot of anecdotal claims that are made and no medical studies to back them up. And that's not how I operate. When I make a claim about a statistic or a protocol, I'm going to point you in the direction of a medical study so that you can take a look at it for yourself. You can draw your own conclusion. I think that's the way it should be. So, I am a proponent of turning to nature first before turning to medication. I'm not against medication. Why would I be? Well, I can think of a few reasons why. But I often feel that nature is overlooked, and it may very well have a remedy for you if you take the steps and do some homework, do some research. I also believe that diet is the primary healing protocol, regardless of the health problem. This presentation is educational. I don't diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disorder. That is the role of your healthcare practitioner. All right, so I'm going to be talking about a number of health and wellness topics, including holistic remedies. I'm going to talk about fatigue. I will talk about affirmations that will help you to improve your mindset. And I'm going to talk a little bit about brain fog. Can't leave that out. And I am also going to talk at length about a protocol that will help people to lose weight without tracking calories. It's actually a big step forward in the way of nutrition science, and it has 10 peer reviewed studies to support its effectiveness and safety. And these have been published in some of the top medical journals. Now, that is something that you don't hear of too often, especially in the health and wellness community. So stick around, keep your seatbelt on. We got a lot of fun stuff to talk about. By all means, feel free to drop questions in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer them in a timely manner. All right, so why don't we get started? The first step that anybody and everybody has to take when you want to get on a wellness journey is, drumroll, you have to decide who you want to be. And you have to decide on the lifestyle that you want, and then you have to stay consistent with that. And this is not something that you do on a part time basis. You don't do a wellness journey when the mood hits you because emotions are terribly unreliable. So, you do have to make the effort and you have to decide who you want to be. So, now I also want to talk about some other things besides just mindset to help you have a successful wellness journey. I'm going to talk to you about a few things that you may or may not even be aware of. So, I hope that you get a lot of value out of this presentation. So, the things I'm talking about or about to talk about are this. This, as I like to say in some of my videos. So, I refer to the three as the three culprits. It's a name that I gave it. Not looking for any royalties, but just pointing that out. Anyway, nutritional deficiency, toxicity, and stress. What do they have in common? Well, they prevent the body from repairing itself. They prevent the body from running efficiently. And every single person around the globe deals with this in one shape or form. So let's do a quick summary of these three, and then I'm going to elaborate on them a little bit more and also introduce some remedies that can help you overcome these. So I made a short list of some of the health issues that stem from these three, and it is a short list. It actually could go a lot further. In fact, it could roll off the screen. That's how far and wide these three can have a negative impact on us. All right, so let's talk about stress. Stress needs no introduction. Many of us live in a heightened state of anxiety. I know I speak from experience. Life is not a walk in the park. I get it. So, my goal as your accountability partner is to help you break that grind and get out of that habit of living in a heightened state of anxiety. So, I am going to share some affirmations with you because that's my go to help stay optimistic and confident. I'm also going to share a little bit later on some holistic remedies, some actual food choices that can also help you to manage your stress level. Let's jump over to the left, shall we? Nutritional deficiency. Now, this is a problem that has gotten more problematic over the decades. A lot of what we rely on, even foods that we are misled to believing that they're healthy for us, they simply don't have the nutrients in the abundance that they had 30, 40, 50 years ago. And I could probably devote an entire presentation to just talking about that. But again, you guys can look some of this stuff up for yourself. Look up mineral deficiency, look up vitamin deficiency. There's a lot of data out there that says our foods simply don't have the nutrients in the abundance that it once had. So I think you got the picture. Let's jump up to the middle one, toxicity. This may or may not be on your radar. It wasn't on mine till about 5+ years ago. I knew that there were problems with the environment. I wasn't, wasn't unaware of that. But what I didn't know was to the degree. So our environment has gotten steadily more contaminated over the decades. There's a lot more pollution in the water, in the air, and a lot of these are in our foods. So this is why these awful toxins find their way into our bodies. And when the body can't eliminate them, in part because our foods are not powering the organs, the filtration organs to remove these toxins, they end up getting stored in our fat cells. And all three of these are going to contribute to some of the issues I put down here in the middle: fatigue, insomnia, allergies, brain fog, la da da, depression, weight gain, chronic illness. So I do want to spend quite a bit of time talking to you guys about the second to last one on the list, which is excessive weight gain. And I want to shed some light on some of the myths about how to approach this, especially for long term. And this is where there's a lot of anecdotal claims that are being made out there and no medical studies. So I'm actually going to point you towards clinical studies when it comes to this topic, because I'd rather rely on the advice of the experts rather than just make something up off the top of my head. So I think you can hopefully appreciate that. So, um, let's take a look at one such study since I did start that conversation up. We're going to take a look at the ongoing problem that is now global. There are over a billion people as of 2022 who are clinically obese. And again, this is a study I just put up on screen here. This was conducted by the NCD Risk Factor Collaboration. You don't have to memorize this, but if you want to look it up, I took a screenshot so you can at least identify it. And it was published in the Lancet Journal. So, clinical obesity worldwide now has more than doubled since 1990, and obesity has actually surpassed starvation as the leading form of malnutrition. Now, I was very shocked when I heard that, um, and you may be shocked hearing this too, especially if it's the first time. So, the reason why I'm bringing this up is the method that most people are using to get their weight under control, especially for long term, is counting calories. Now, we have been told for decades that this is the only way to lose weight. And today I'm going to call that into question. Um, how well is tracking calories working if the numbers are continuing to go up? And it's not because there's a shortage of solutions. I looked this up about a year and a half ago, and there are over 100 diets here in our country alone, here in the US. And the numbers keeps going up as well, too. New diets keep popping up all the time. And then, believe it or not, for 2 decades, we've had GLPs to suppress the appetite to help people lose weight. So it's not because there's a shortage of options out there, between diets and GLPs, and yet the numbers continue to go up. That doesn't make any sense, does it? You would think with all of these different options out there, the numbers would come down, but we're not seeing that. And I'm going to now show you some additional research that's worth taking a look at. So let me switch slides here. So if you go onto the search engine of your choice, if you go to Google, you can go to Bing, um, you look up, for example, counting calories doesn't work, just as an example. Scroll down past the paid ads, and this is what you're going to start to see. You're going to start to see medical studies that have been published by experts in their field. And this is one that's very easy to find. It was conducted by Harvard Medical. In fact, um, pulling up my notes here, I'm going to read you quickly what the doctor had to say about counting calories. And she's the one that published this study. The idea of a calorie in and a calorie out when it comes to weight loss is not only antiquated, it's just wrong, says Dr. Fatima Stanford. She is, she is an obesity specialist and a professor of medicine and pediatrics at Harvard Medical. And, by golly, I've got a whole page here full of notes, full of what doctors have to say. And some of them are psychologists, by the way, because they're trying to help people who've developed eating disorders in part because of tracking calories, and people trying to get obsessive with weight loss with a method that really doesn't seem to be working for most people. And that's what the data says. So um, back to my slides here. I want to show you one other that was worth taking a look at and worth mentioning. This is Medicare search for an effective obesity treatment. Diets are not the answer. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on these, but you now know what these look like. So that will help you if you decide to look these up for yourself, um, and just look it over yourself, draw your own conclusions. I'll show you one more. This was published again by the Lancet Journal. And they're saying that without immediate action, nearly 260 million citizens of the U.S. are predicted to be overweight or obese by 2050. So, again, what's the method that people are using to try and get this under control? We know that most people are tracking calories, if not everybody's tracking calories. Why? Because we were told for decades that this is the only way to do this. Well, just the little bit of data I've shared with you tells a very different picture. Again, these are done by experts. None of this is my opinion. And what we're seeing is the numbers are continuing to go up, and they're going up quite dramatically. So something's not working with tracking calories. Let's take a deeper dive into what happens when you do track calories. So the idea of tracking calories is based on this idea of monitoring or regulating how much food you eat or don't eat. And there's a little bit more to weight loss than simply paying attention to numbers. Now, I understand people get excited when they get on a diet or they start doing GLPs because the number on the scale drops. That is something to get excited about. But oftentimes, and I've seen this with my own two eyes, and I've also seen it in comments on videos that talk about weight loss, people are frustrated. They start to, experience some benefits at first. The number on the scale starts to drop. They get excited to fit into their skinny jeans, and then they hit a plateau. Food cravings start to intensify. So again, there's a little bit more to what's going on than what you were told. And a lot of times people end up losing lean muscle mass in the process. So the studies that I pointed out, and I just put a few up there, there are actually many other studies that are in medical journals that don't recommend tracking calories long term, because oftentimes what happens is the body, well, first of all, the body doesn't know what a calorie is. It doesn't count calories. What it sees is it sees a drop in food intake, but it also interprets that as a drop in nutrition. That is what the body understands as nutrition. Now, some of you might think, well, if I just eat healthy foods, won't that work? Yes, that absolutely will work to a point. But even our healthy options out there are missing a lot of vital nutrients. As I said at the beginning, our foods don't have the nutrients in the abundance that they once had, say 40, 50, 60 years ago. And again, look this up. Don't take my word for it. So tracking calories does not seem to be all it's cracked up to be. So what other options do we have? Well, one of the things I like about science, whether it's nutrition science, whether it's medical, whether it's technology, heck, it could be camping gear, it could be fishing gear. But what science does is it creates new ways to solve problems. So I'm going to share something with you now that represents a big step forward in the way of nutrition science. And there's no tracking calories with this. None of the mental gymnastics that go with dieting and tracking calories and dealing with obsessive food cravings. There's no lean muscle loss with this system. This is really a major step forward. And interestingly enough, it's not based on how much food you eat or don't eat. It's all based on detoxification. That's the kind of the focal point of this system. And it's supported with high amounts of nutrition. Okay, so what am I talking about at long last? That was quite a buildup, wasn't it? So this is the R2M, which stands for Race to Maintenance 30-day reset. It's a system that the researchers created this protocol based on the lifestyle habits of people who are living 100 years or longer. And these would include the 5 blue zones. If you're not familiar with the blue zones, these are 5 regions in the world where people are living to 100 years or longer. And the researchers studied the lifestyle habits of these people because they wanted to figure out what was making them tick. How come these people are living 100 years and longer, very low rates of illness, nobody's overweight, everybody seems to have cracked the code for longevity? So the researchers discovered there were 2 lifestyle habits that these people were following. And the 2 are part of the system, these superfood meals. These are part of the 30-day reset. These are very low in calories, but they're very high in nutrition, which is what the body responds to. So they're very easy to prepare as well. This is great for people with busy schedules. So this is about loading the body up on nutrition that unfortunately is not abundant in our store-bought foods, even in our healthy options. I have a little grammatical issues with my brain connecting to my mouth. It happens. Um, then there's intermittent nutritional fasting. Now, you guys are familiar with fasting, I'm sure. You've probably heard of time restricted eating by now. This is neither. This is a different type of fasting because you're not starving yourself. Most people who are doing regular traditional intermittent fasting are not eating anything for 1 or more days. This is a different type of fasting and it's much more efficient. So, on a day of intermittent nutritional fasting, you'll consume 16 different herbs such as aloe vera, ashwagandha, alfalfa, raspberry, bilberry, blueberry. So, a total of 16 that will help the liver more effectively get rid of toxins that we store in our fat cells. So, on those days of intermittent nutritional fasting, what happens is when we release that burden of toxicity, the fat cells will actually shrink in size. So, the weight that you're losing is really a bonus. It's a kind of a function of the detox process where you're not slowing down your metabolism, you're not enduring these god awful hunger cravings, and the body actually gets much healthier. And in a couple minutes, I'm going to share some of the clinical research that was done on this. And I think you guys will be really blown away. All right. So, last and certainly not least are the adaptogens on the far right here. Sorry, my camera's in the way. Only got a limited amount of screen real estate to deal with. But adaptogens are also herbs that help us to recover from stress. So, they help us to return to homeostasis. And that's a sense of feeling grounded again. So, really, a big step forward in the way of nutrition science. Let's take a look now, shall we, at some of the incredible transformations. Starting out with me, I think that should look familiar if you've been watching me so far. I'll give you a little bit of background on myself. I'm 62 and 5'7", and I was about 150 to 160 for most of my adult life. But I unfortunately was wrestling with very severe chronic fatigue for over 25 years, and I had to stop exercising at some point because the fatigue was just really leveling me the following day after literally doing 15 minutes of yoga. I used to teach Bikram yoga a long time ago. I was trying to at least do some stretching to keep my back limber, and eventually I had to throw in the towel. I simply could not exercise. So the picture of me on the left from 5 years ago, uh, 6 years ago now. Wow, time flies. I'm actually 171 in that, and I peaked at 185. So 5'7", 185. That's a lot of me to be carrying around. Not healthy. You've heard it all before. Um, but my fortunes took a turn for the better when I was introduced to the 30-day reset a little over 5 years ago now. And I tried it out more out of curiosity, and I just had amazing results with it. And I'm going to show you how simple the system is to implement. Um, but after the first week of the 30-day system, 5 years of brain fog had cleared up. I got really good sleep. And during the 30 days, I felt like I was reconnecting with the side of me that I was disconnected from. So, in other words, my energy was coming back, my sleep had improved, stress level was coming down, and, I was a one happy camper. Let me see here. Where are my slides? Okay. Now I'm going to walk you through how simple the system is to implement, and then I'm going to show you some more amazing transformations. So keep your seatbelt on. Adaptogens, I got them in the middle there. The adaptogens are taken every single day for the entire 30 days. Easy peasy. Doesn't get any easier than that. The red X's are the days where we're going to replace 2 of our 3 meals with the meals that come with the 30-day reset. Now, these 2 meals that come with the reset are very nutritionally dense. They're low in calories. They're in the neighborhood of 250 calories per meal. It's going to flood the body with the nutrients that so many of us are missing. And what does that mean? It means the body's going to do a better job of repairing itself. The third meal will be something that I will help you with if you're not savvy in the kitchen. I offer no cost coaching. My goal is to help you get the best wellness journey that you could ever possibly experience. So it's all on the house. Want you to succeed. The green X's are the days where you do intermittent nutritional fasting. So just a reminder, not regular fasting, no starving yourself, no time restricted eating. This is much more efficient. And these are the days where you won't be eating solid food, but you won't be starving yourself either. You're still going to consume nutrition. You're going to consume 16 different herbs 4 times throughout the day to help eliminate that burden of toxicity so that your fat cells actually shrink in size because they're getting rid of these awful toxins. The weight is lost in a way that is very safe without slowing down the metabolism, without incurring these obsessive food cravings. It's all about getting the body healthy. That's what this system is based on. It's not about how much food you eat or don't eat. It's all about giving the body copious amounts of nutrition. Okay, I think I hit home on that. Let's take a look at some other incredible wellness journeys. So, this is Kristen. She had an amazing 30-day transformation. Again, no tracking calories. This is not a diet, guys. This is a nutritional system that is about providing copious amounts of nutrition. No mental gymnastics with counting calories. You don't need that app to calculate your food math. I love that term, food math. Just don't like the practice. Don't recommend it. So she had an amazing journey. She didn't lose any lean muscle mass, and the weight is lost in a safe manner. And the wonderful thing is, people can actually lose a lot of weight on this without throwing the metabolism into chaos. This is Curtis. Curtis had an amazing transformation. He's a couple years younger than me. He's 66 now, and had incredible metabolic shift for the better. His lab results were very impressive as well. Everything improved in the 30 days. And you can lose a lot of weight without stressing out your metabolism and losing lean muscle. This is Toby. Toby actually lives in New Zealand. He experienced what a lot of people experience, where you're losing weight and putting it back on again. They call that the yo-yo effect. You can look up weight cycling, by the way. That's what the yo-yo effect is. And there are medical studies that suggest that most people, like 80 to 90%, when I say most people, end up putting the weight back on again within 2 to 5 years. So, again, none of it is my opinion. I don't share my opinion when it comes to research. I got one more for you. A young lady had an amazing journey. Same thing again, no tracking calories, none of the mental gymnastics of counting calories, just an optimally performed body. The body just does an amazing job of repairing itself. All right, which brings us back to the first slide. So I've covered pretty much everything on this. So if you are curious to learn more about it, you can drop a comment. You can also go to my channel and tap on the info hub. I was at a loss for words, but yeah, go ahead and check out the info hub. It's just 2 pages and it's got a lot of the information I just shared with you here. So again, this is a big step forward in the way of nutrition science, and people are getting phenomenal results without the traditional approach, which is to track calories. And oftentimes it works short term, tracking calories. There's actually no medical evidence that says any diet out there works long term. Should make that very clear to you. And the great thing about science is it creates new ways to solve problems, right? So whether it's medicine, whether it's technology, in this case, it's nutrition science. That's one of the things I really like about science, is it's always going to make improvements. I shouldn't say always, but I think in most cases that's applicable. So on that note, I am going to drop off. It's been an honor to be here on YouTube. And let me know how I can help you. If not you, maybe somebody you know has been dealing with the things that I talked about earlier. Um, Feel free to reach out to me, drop a comment, and you can also go to my channel here, The Body Wish, and tap on the information hub and take a look at it. So that's it for today. I'm going to drop off. You guys have a great day, and we'll see you soon. Ciao for now.